His name was Nathan Callaway. He was 28 years old, senior associate at one of the most respected investment firms in the city, the youngest person in the room that evening by a significant margin, and the only person in that ballroom who knew exactly who had just shaken his hand. His father had left when he was 3 years old, not gradually, not with a conversation. One morning he was there, the next morning he was not, and he did not come back. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now and tell us where in the world you are watching from. And if you are not subscribed to Turning Point Tales yet, hit that button now. You do not want to miss how this story ends. Richard Calloway had been 26 years old when his son was born. He was not ready. That was the word he used when he talked about it years later. Not ready. What ready meant, in practical terms, was that there was another woman. Her name was Diane. She was 24 and worked in the same office, and had none of the complications that came with an infant and a tired wife and a life that had arrived faster than Richard had planned for. He told his wife, Carol, on a Tuesday evening. Nathan was asleep in the next room. Carol listened to everything Richard said. Then she asked one question. She said, "Are you going to be in his life?" Richard said he needed time. Time became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became a pattern. A pattern became an absence. An absence became permanent. He sent money, inconsistently at first. Then not at all. Carol hired an attorney. Child support was established through the court. Richard paid it. That was the full extent of his involvement in his son's life. A court-ordered number deposited monthly into an account he never thought about. For a child he had decided, without ever quite saying so directly, was someone else's problem now. Carol raised Nathan alone. She was 25 years old when Richard left. She had a 3-year-old, a part-time job at a medical billing company, and a mother 2 states away who could help on alternating weekends. She did not collapse. She did not wait for Richard to change his mind. She understood within 3 months that waiting was not a strategy. She took a full-time position. She enrolled in night school. She became a medical coder, then a billing manager, then the head of her department. Over 12 years, quietly, without announcement, she built a life that did not have a hole in the center of it, a life that was full. Nathan grew up watching her do it. He asked about his father once. He was 7 years old. He asked why his father did not come to his school play. Carol sat with him on the front step of their house. She told him the truth, not the cruel version of the truth, not the version designed to protect Richard, the honest version. She said, "Your father made a choice that had nothing to do with who you are." She said, "You are not the reason he left." She said, "You are the reason I stayed." Nathan looked at her, said okay. He did not ask again. Nathan Callaway was not a boy who grew up angry. That is important to understand. He did not spend his childhood with his fists clenched. He did not define himself by the absence. What he was, from as early as anyone could remember, was focused, completely, almost unnervingly focused. He watched his mother work. He understood early what it cost. He decided at some point between 7 and 12 that nobody could pinpoint exactly, that he was going to make it cost less. He earned a scholarship to a private high school, then another one to a university that his mother could not have afforded. He studied finance. He graduated with honors. He was recruited by 3 firms before he had finished his final semester. He chose the hardest one, not the one with the best starting salary, the hardest one, the one known for eating junior associates alive and producing the sharpest minds in the industry. He survived it, then he thrived in it. By 26, he had closed 2 deals that older colleagues had failed to close. By 27, his name was in an industry publication for a negotiation that had been considered impossible. By 28, he was standing in the center of a corporate ballroom, being introduced to the people who ran the rooms he was about to enter permanently. Richard Calloway had also done well. He and Diane had married 3 years after he left Carol. They had 2 children together, both now in their early 20s. He had built a career in investment consulting. He was a senior partner at a mid-sized firm. He drove a car that announced its cost quietly. He lived in a house in a neighborhood where lawns were maintained by other people. He thought about Nathan sometimes, not often, but sometimes, usually when one of his other children did something that reminded him of a calculation he had made 25 years ago. A calculation he had never fully examined. He had told himself the story this way. Carol had been fine. The money had been paid. Children are resilient. Nathan had not needed him. He had told himself that story for 25 years and had never once tested it against reality. The corporate awards dinner was held on a Thursday evening in November. Richard's firm had co-sponsored the event. He was there as a host. He noticed Nathan before the introduction. It would be dishonest to say he did not. A young black man commanding the attention of a circle of senior professionals. That was noticeable in any room. His associate leaned over, said, "You should meet this one." He closed the Meridian deal, 28 years old. Richard walked over, extended his hand. Nathan took it. He shook it once, then looked at Richard's face. Richard saw something happen in the young man's expression, something small and specific, a recognition that was not surprise, more like an arrival, the expression of someone who has been waiting for a moment and is now standing inside it. Nathan said his name back to him quietly, Richard Callaway. Then he said, "You left when I was 3. Not a question, not an accusation, a statement, delivered with the specific calm of someone who processed this moment years ago and has no emotion left to perform about it. Richard opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Nathan held his gaze for exactly 3 seconds. Then he turned back to his colleagues, picked up his drink, continued the conversation he had been having. Richard stood there, his hand still partially extended, in the middle of a room full of people, completely alone. He left the event 40 minutes later. He sat in his car in the parking garage. He did not drive immediately. He sat there for a long time. He thought about a Tuesday evening 25 years ago. A sleeping 3-year-old in the next room. Carol asking, "Are you going to be in his life?" He thought about time becoming weeks, weeks becoming months, months becoming permanent. He thought about a court-ordered number deposited monthly into an account he never thought about. For a child he had decided was someone else's problem. He thought about a young man in a sharp suit closing deals that senior colleagues had failed to close, standing in the center of rooms that Richard had spent his entire career trying to enter. At 28, without him, without a single thing from him except a court-ordered number, he thought about the expression on Nathan's face. Not anger, not grief, just the calm of someone who had already resolved something, a long time ago, without Richard's participation. He sat in that parking garage for a very long time. Nathan told his mother about the dinner the next morning. He called her at 7:15. She answered immediately. She always did. He told her what had happened. From the handshake to the statement to turning back to his colleagues, Carol was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "How do you feel?" Nathan said, "Fine. I've been ready for that moment since I was about 12. Carol said, "Did you need anything from it?" Nathan thought about that, said, "No, I don't think I did." Carol said, "Good." They talked for another 20 minutes about other things. Her department, his upcoming project, a restaurant she had tried the week before that he needed to know about, ordinary things. The ordinary things of two people who had built something real together, over 25 years, without anyone else. Richard Callaway reached out 6 weeks after the dinner, through a mutual professional contact. He asked if Nathan would be willing to meet. Nathan received the message on a Wednesday afternoon. He read it once, then forwarded it to his mother with 3 words. "Your thoughts on this?" Carol called him within the hour. She said, "This is entirely your decision. I have no stake in it." She said, "Whatever you choose, I support it completely." Nathan sat with it for 2 weeks. Then he sent a response. He said, "I am willing to meet once." He said, "I have a full life and I am not looking to add to it," he said, "but I am willing to hear what you have to say." They met at a coffee shop on a Saturday morning. Nathan arrived on time. Richard was already there. Early, the particular earliness of someone who is afraid of giving any impression of carelessness. Richard spoke for most of the meeting. He said he was sorry. He said he had been young and selfish and wrong. He said he had told himself stories about why it was acceptable and had believed those stories for longer than he should have. He said he was not asking for forgiveness. He was asking for a chance. Nathan listened to all of it. Then he said, "I want to be honest with you about something." Richard nodded. Nathan said, "I do not need a father. I needed one when I was 3, when I was 7, when I was at my first high school debate and looked into the crowd and understood completely that you were never going to be there." He said, "I built my life without that. My mother built her life without that. And we are both fine, better than fine." He said, "I am willing to know you as a person, if that is something you want." He said, "But I need you to understand what that means. It means starting from zero, not from father and son, just from 2 people in a coffee shop." Richard said, "I understand." Nathan said, "Then we can have coffee occasionally, and we will see." He picked up his cup, said, "Tell me about your work." Richard blinked. He had not expected that. He started talking. Nathan Callaway made partner at his firm at 31, one of the youngest in the firm's history. His mother was in the front row at the announcement dinner. She wore the red dress she had been saving for something worthy of it. She cried exactly once when he mentioned her in his speech. He said, "Everything I have built, I learned from watching you build." Richard Callaway was not at the dinner. He had not been invited. Nathan had not decided that yet. Maybe he would one day. Maybe he would not. That was the thing about Nathan Callaway. He was not rushing any decision that did not need to be rushed. He had learned that from his mother. Along with everything else that mattered, there is a particular kind of man who believes that absence has no cost, who leaves and tells himself that children are resilient, that money replaces presence, that the years he missed were years his child would not remember or would eventually forgive. Richard Callaway believed all of those things for 25 years. And then he extended his hand at a corporate dinner, and a young man looked at him with calm and steady eyes, and said 4 words that contained 25 years of everything Richard had missed. "You left when I was 3, not in anger, not in grief, just in truth." The most expensive 4 words Richard Callaway would ever hear. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to Turning Point Tales. We will see you in the next one.